Now, the subject is Keswick Island, the Chinese that are trying to... they've got a 99-year lease from the Premier of Queensland, Palace Chook, and I'm not suggesting she has done anything illegal, but is it true the fuel was drained from an aircraft on Keswick Island in an attempt to silence some vocal opposition to the Chinese takeover? Did you hear about that? Did the police do anything about that? Did the politicians done anything about that? Let's move north. Is it true that a police officer was suicided? There's a clean copper who was charged with corruption, found innocent because he was being set up. He was then suicided. And that and a judge was killed in North Queensland when they tried to expose corruption. Any news about this? No, of course not. Is it true that the ice epidemic in Queensland is in place due to corrupt police and politicians working on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party? They're just the deliverers of it. They do it. The Chinese do. The Chinese bring it in. Is it true that the Chinese Communist Party will soon control the port of Townsville like they do the port of Darwin and what flows in from that? Is it true that underage children are being flown into Townsville for the purpose of sex trafficking? And if so, who's behind it? And who's not taking action to stop it? Is it true that Adani, the Adani mine, the Indian company, will shortly be financially untenable, which means broke, and that the CCP will become the new owners? Is it true that none of the news services have raised these issues with the public, and if not, why not? And that's just a handful of the things that we discovered while we were up there.
Jesus.
Now, it's not our job to investigate this stuff. We're just a start-up party. And yet we've got all these, what do you call them? Overpriced loudmouths on TV pretending to speak. Now, one of the things I did do is I shocked a few people with some home truths, but they had to learn about it. One of them was the fake news story. What's his name? Whittaker. Sam Whittaker, head of Sky News, and his four stooges, I call them, the four stooges, Peter Credle and Alan Jones and Andrew Bolt, and the cashed-up bogan Paul Murray. And I was talking about the fake news that these four stooges put out, and one young lady at the back yelled out, "Controlled opposition!" And what we found out on the trip was these people know exactly what's going on. There were some that had very little idea, but there were some that are very well informed. These aren't country bumpkins. These guys know exactly, and I'm talking 60, 70-year-old country folk, solid farmers, and they are across all the issues that make you look naive in terms of what they know. They're very sharp, they're very strong. And so when they yelled out controlled opposition, they actually understood. See, what Sam Whittaker and his four stooges do is they give the average Australians hope, false hope, that somebody is speaking on their behalf. But we know they only go so far, and they never go all the way. They never mention pedophilia, I wonder why. They never mention the full-term abortion, I wonder why. If you got that's and then you've got Andrew Bolt. Andrew Bolt's an interesting guy. He used to be a leftist, and like most leftists, he's a good example of arrested development. He's still waiting for his stones to drop before he can make his mind up on something. He has no idea. He just struggles with these adolescent perspectives. And Paul Murray, the cashed-up bogan, he swings from being paid-up Liberal shill to paid-up Labor shill. He calls Graham Richardson, Senator, whatever it takes, Graham Richardson, the great man. So I have to break down each of these four characters and show people how they only go so far. You go to bed thinking that somebody is speaking on your behalf, and then you find out they're impotent because they never actually, ever go that final step and say, you know what, there's a real problem here.
Why?
Why do they do it?
Why do they stop short?
Oh, I don't know. Let's speculate. Let's see. Yeah. They're just young and innocent things, like Peter Credlin, former chief of staff to a prime minister who brought in safe schools, former current wife of former Liberal National Federal Director. Maybe she's just young and innocent like Julia Gillard was, doesn't know what's going on. Maybe, I don't know, maybe. They don't want to lose their multi-million-dollar packet. They believe that their political party can be saved. They're all on board and they know that we're suckers and they're going to survive. Who knows? And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. The fact is the four stooges are actually more dangerous than the ABC. The ABC, we know, are fully paid up members of the Chinese Communist Party. They're the official organ. We know that. But as I've said before, a certain enemy is more preferable to an uncertain ally. And then bit by bit by bit, they realise, you know what, we've been lied to the whole time. They won't give us the full story. And so that upset a few people.
Yeah. And even if they don't know about this stuff now, they do, and they've known
Now
for
they
some
do.
time, actually. So they should be acting on it, but they don't.
Just to wrap up on a slightly happier note, at the end of each of these presentations, and the enthusiasm was incredible. It was a hard slog, let me tell you, 29 days, and it was a lot of work, but my goodness me, they were so grateful just to have somebody speak up.
Yeah.
And it's called social proof. When you see somebody else do it, you feel more motivated to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And so to wrap it up, what I'd say is, look, what Australia One is all about is this. Just to sum everything up, we're for children, we're for families, and we're for unity. And that's it. And that really summed it up for them. They understood exactly where we're coming from.
Yeah.
And, that's where we get our juice.
Yeah, I thought this was a random video that you sent me, but this seems to be quite pertinent to that point.
And that's the reason we're doing what we're doing. We're doing this to protect the kids, to protect families, and bring everyone together.
Yeah.
And they saw that.
Yeah.
They saw that, and they knew it, and they're very happy, and they're fired up, more importantly. So sorry about the monologue, but that's a quick wrap-up of the national tour. Massively successful. We're going to take a short break between now and the new year, and in the new year we'll be doing New South Wales, southern half of New South Wales. We've done most of the north. And then Vic, and then depending on which states are open, we move across the rest of the country. We've got a state election coming up in WA, so we've got to get across the WA as well.
In March.
So it's going to be a very busy quarter one next year.
Absolutely.